Hello everyone, I've been meaning to make this video for a long time, since January actually, but I've not had the confidence or the strength to do so. It is a very heavy video, and it's about the death of my grandmother. It is a eulogy that I had written back when it happened. I was originally going to wait and I was originally going to make this when it was a year, but I didn't have the strength to do so. As of lately, though, I've been in a very rough spot, and part of that is the guilt of not having done this. And the other part is generally some personal stuff that I don't feel like talking about. It's hard. So, just kind of enjoy the Made in Abyss clips that I put in the background and the music that I will put there. I don't know how long this will be, but I hope you enjoy this. From a young age, my siblings and I faced a lot of hardships and had to overcome far more than any child should. With an unstable home life and bouncing from foster home to foster home, we lost much of our early childhood to the time spent not being able to enjoy those years. What helped us through many of these struggles were my grandparents, both of whom had just finished raising their own kids before deciding to take in my siblings and me into their lives. The years we spent were filled with pain, struggles, hardships, and so much, yet they did everything they could to raise us. They did everything they could to help us have a normal childhood as we could, and have given everything we had faced. Sending us to school, buying us toys and video games, and even spending time enjoying the media we enjoyed. My grandparents were there for us, trying their best to help us eventually enter adulthood and live our lives. My grandmother was a very kind and gentle woman. She had her flaws, and a lot of them, but she always tried to help everyone to the best of her abilities. Even though her movement was limited due to her health, she still tried to do what she could to raise us. Despite her age, she still found joy in so many of the games that we were playing. She loved Pokemon just as much as her grandkids, and even had a nice collection of cards and games and other medias around the series. She used to wake up early every Saturday morning to watch cartoons and anime with us. She used to wake up every early Saturday morning and watch cartoons and anime with us when we were in school. When Yu-Gi-Oh came out, she enjoyed the anime, but she didn't care much for the cards. She encouraged us to enjoy the games, and even learn some of the basics on how to play, on how the game was played. I learned that being an adult didn't mean giving up things that I enjoyed. That being an adult didn't mean I needed to stop loving media like Pokemon, Digimon, and many other series. I watched people either grow out of or decide that they were too grown up. I learned how to be determined and just express myself for who I am. She never once made me feel bad for myself. If anything, she always made me happy. She was always happy to see me grow into who I am. When she learned I was bisexual, she didn't even hesitate to say how happy she was for me and figuring myself out. When I told her I'm trans, she didn't even give me some fake happiness. She was truly happy to hear that I was working towards bettering myself. With every change and every accomplishment, and even every failure, she was just happy to know I was growing and coming into my own. She never once made me feel like I was unloved. As the years went on and my free time grew thinner, so did her ability to communicate and share. I started to learn of her failing health and knew that one day it was going to be her last. I did everything I could to see her again, and in 2019, I was able to accomplish that goal. After nearly 10 years of not seeing my family and years spent being abused by the same monster who took me from them, I was able to get onto a Greyhound and see them again. I was 19 when I last saw them, when I last saw my family. And here I was sitting nearly 30, finally able to see them again. My grandmother's health was slowly depleting to a very weak state. She was barely recognizable compared to the woman that I had seen before leaving, but she was still my grandmother, and I could tell she still loved me. She was so happy to see me. I could tell she was. I don't know how much she could understand when I spoke, but at least I knew she was happy that I was there talking to her one more time. I could tell that time was running out for her. I was starting to make plans to see her before the time ended. Unfortunately, when COVID struck, I knew this would make it harder. Money started running out after my wife lost her job. My job wasn't paying enough to keep any kind of savings. We couldn't see them during that time, and it started to quickly eat at me. The last time I saw my grandmother, it was so short. When we moved into an apartment, we knew we had to do everything to eventually see my family. During that time, I was unemployed due to an injury and a lawsuit. But I was still trying I was still trying my best to make money somehow. Eventually, I picked up a part-time job, which I quit shortly after. Then I picked up another part-time job and ended up falling through. During that time, I had gotten a call in October of 2022, and my grandmother didn't have much time left. I moved my focus and started working with my lawyer, and we won the lawsuit. I was able to get my payout of the lawsuit, and everything was set in motion. On December 21st, 2022, my wife and I got into a car and started the 800-mile trip across the country to my home state of Massachusetts. The anxiety weighed heavily on me during this trip to Mass. After a long drive and sleeping in a car, we eventually made it to my friend's house and spent the night before going to our motel. We spent the night preparing to finally see my family for Christmas again. Or see my family again for Christmas. My wife got to meet everyone, and she was loved so much. My family adored her the entire time we were there. I could tell my grandmother was on her last legs, but I could also tell just how happy she was to see me for Christmas, and to finally meet my wife. Despite how much of her was lost over the years, her joy was so much who I remembered. We spent our time in New England adventuring and stopping to see my family during the trip. When we finally decided to leave on New Year's, we stopped by my family to see them off. My grandmother gave me one of the strongest hugs she could ever give. My own, but I could tell that was going to be the last hug. I cried the entire trip back to see my mom before we set off on our journey back home. 2 days later, my grandmother went into the hospital, where she remained throughout the rest of January until her passing. This was the last attempt to save her to keep her living just a little longer, but eventually everyone knew. She was taken off life support, and her lungs began filling with fluid. She was given morphine so she wouldn't suffer. During the early morning of January 25th, 2023, she passed away peacefully in her sleep. She will be missed by her family, and I hope she is resting well. She had a hard life, and I hope she's able to find peace. I loved her, and I hope she knows I was happy to be raised by such an amazing person. What a lot of people don't know is where this avatar came from. It was created in reality, but originally when 2023 started, I wanted to be a VTuber. But I was in such a shitty state that I made a mistake and asked people on Twitter for help. I ended up with a lot of scammers, and I ended up getting scammed myself. Someone had taken advantage of the shitty situation I was in. And right at the same time when my grandmother died, it dawned on me that I was being scammed as well. And when that happened, it sent me into a bit of a frenzy. Instead of just accepting the scam, I had confronted the scammer and got my money back, and I had taken my wife's advice to use free software instead. And that's when reality came into play. What you're seeing now is a sad cope. Miko was made out of this pain. The sole purpose of bringing joy. I want to make people happy, just like she did for my siblings and I. I want to bring happiness to this world. The fun thing about Miko is that he was created out of just sheer randomness. The fact that he even has this wolf tail came out of a gotcha, and I just thought it was so funny to watch this tail bounce. And I knew it would make people smile. I want to live the way that I know she would want me to live. Thank you for listening. I love you all.